Watching Kyle's unboxing videos again?
Yeah, he always finds the coolest... No way! A robot dog? Gotta ask where he got it.
Or use your Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. Just draw a circle around the dog on your screen, and it shows you where to buy it right in the app.
Whoa, I just learned a new trick. And that for once, I beat Kyle to the next big thing.
Circle it, find it with the new Galaxy S24 Ultra and circle the search with Google. Get yours now at Samsung.com. Internet connection required. Results may vary based on visuals.
Hello and welcome to It's Only a Game. In a week where Spurs spurned 6 points to give their three-time manager of the month pay an Angish, Arsenal gunned down Burnley, who are now in their own company at the bottom of the league. Fortune tellers were going crazy at Stamford Bridge, as a double Desmond left City crossing their palmers with Sterling. Who could have foreseen both would score against their former club? In the Championship, Leicester channel their inner Princess Fiona, careful I say that, finished off by some green wood. Meanwhile, Ipswich joined the Fox atop the table as Chaplin scored again in a biblical season at Portman Road. Suffolk and good, aren't they? Meanwhile, in the jungle of the Bundesliga, 2 Köln goals, put Bayern temporarily top of the tree. It's Jurassic Park again for Stuttgart, but it's none too shabby in Leverkusen as they continue to lead the pack. In La Liga, Lewandowski is back to Dan Alves. There was a bad tennis injury in the Seville derby as Betis fell foul of Rakitic, and Real Madrid chinko Valencia by winning 5-1. That's all, and there's many more stories for football as we look forward to another international week. Wahey! We're joined by Greg, Deck, and our very special guest, Mark from Project Football. How are we doing, gents?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having us on.
Yeah, doing fine, Jim. I've been relegated to the kitchen, unfortunately, this evening. So,
Well, you are a Rochdale fan.
Relegation is deep in my veins, relegation. But, apart from that, I'm fine.
Indeed.
And speaking of relegation,
excellent.
I'm miserable as ever. Football aside, we're all good. Yeah, good result at the weekend. We'll probably touch on that later on. But yeah, not too bad, gents. Not too bad.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, as alluded to in the intro, we are joined by Mark from Project Football. Mark, you are a West Bromwich Albion fan, and well, I'm guessing you're currently wearing, for the listeners, a West Brom shirt from about 2008-09, is that?
It's from one of the Championship campaigns, yeah, of which there have been many in the last few years. So, yeah, it's Umbro, which we haven't had for a while. So, it is one of the early Championship ones.
Yeah, love a good Umbro top. Love that kind of late 2000s Umbro template. I know Everton had the same kind of style. Dead nice shirts, I found. Well made. I miss Umbro.
Yeah, we had Umbro in the, I think it was the late 70s when we had our, what I consider, and probably many do as well, our best ever team, like with the 3 Degrees, Bomber Brown, all that. So, yeah, it's sort of, I don't want to say traditional with the Albion, but, it's one that it holds significance in our history.
Forgive me, was that the era of Cyril Regis and all that as well? Or have I
the 3 Degrees, Regis, Batson, Cunningham, I think Willie Johnston in there somewhere, little Scottish winger.
Yeah.
Famous for booting the referee up the backside for Scotland. Was it for Scotland? It was either for Scotland or the Albion, one or the other. John Wyle, if you've ever seen that picture from the late 70s against Ipswich in the Cup, kind of like a Terry Butcher-esque with his head split open and crimson mass down the front of his shirt.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I think I've seen that.
That was all before my time as well.
Well, absolutely. I was going to say, mate, you got a lot of knowledge for someone that was way before your time. And, of course, Laurie Cunningham, who went on to play for Real Madrid, am I right in thinking?
Correct, yeah. Probably one of the best players that we've ever had, without question.
Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. So, I mean, from Albion past to Albion present, you're pushing the playoffs at the moment in the Championship, one of your many Championship campaigns, you've said. What are your thoughts on the season so far? From an outsider's perspective, I think you're kind of where you will be predicted to be. But obviously, you're more in the know than I am, and we are. So, what are you reckoning so far in the club run?
I think with this being his first full season, we've got off to a hell of a lot better start than we did at this point last campaign, because that was started under Steve Bruce. So less said about that, the better. And towards the back end of last season, we were sort of cautiously optimistic that we might scrape that top 6, but didn't quite happen. But this season, it's that there's so much chopping and changing between who's in and who's out. I mean, obviously we lost to Southampton at the weekend, who were, I think they were level on points with us possibly. I didn't look at the league table because, again, over the last couple of years, it's not made great reading. But as long as we're in the shout with a few games to go, I think we might just get in there. But it's like Jimmy Greaves said, it's a funny old game. But Corcoran, I'm happy with him. He's a breath of fresh air, like I say, compared to the previous manager. I think we've been unlucky with injuries as well this season. So obviously DK being out with an Achilles injury, which is long term, but I think he's back in training now. Swift, I think he got injured against Blues. If we'd have had him for some of the games that we haven't got maximum points in, we might have done better. But yeah, odd little niggles here and there. Kipre, surprisingly, there's been a revelation this season. I think once we get our full squad back together, we'll hopefully go on a proper run, win a good few games back to back and cement a place in the top 6.
Well, that's it. I'm looking now on the app that we're not sponsored by, but absolutely should be sponsored by, because we use it for all our football knowledge.
Other apps are available.
And there was one player, Adam. Other apps are indeed available, but don't bother unless you indeed use another app. But there's one player I had in mind who I always like the look of, that when you got him on a free a couple of years ago, it's Jed Wallace. Yes. Who I thought was a cracking player at Millwall, and I thought he could have gone on, with the greatest respect, and gone on, made the jump into the Premier League at the time. He obviously has come to West Brom with the view of going up. But he's only ranked as the 10th best player this season according to ratings. I'm looking through the talent, like, oh my God, is he at West Brom now? Some of the players you've got, there's a cracking spine. You mentioned obviously Eric Peters, Cedric Kipre, like some Matt Phillips and Cal Bartley, who've seem to have been in Albion forever. Have been stalwarts, but obviously Swift, Diangana, Mowat, Newcastle. There's a really good spine of a good creative side that blends well, I think, with the way that Corcoran, from watching Corcoran at Huddersfield and obviously at Albion, the way that he likes to play is not just your Route 1 kind of dog and duck, let's put it politely, Allardyce football. Yeah. You and I it's so good that you and I can agree on some Allardyce, I'm sure, in the nicest way.
There's a certain 4-letter word that I want to use that rhymes with one of our former wingers, which I'm not going to mention,
right,
just in case.
Rhymes with Chris Brunt, I'm guessing.
Yeah. I was going to say Jimmy Morrison, but yeah.
Fair enough.
That's just my attempt at humour, forget it.
Fair enough. But yeah, no, good we can agree on that. But I do think the style of play, the players you've got, I mean, you've got a cracking looking side. And I do think I've just literally, to take you behind the curtain, I've just quick peeked and caught up on some championship highlights. I thought you're unlucky the weekend against Southampton. They're obviously a really good side at that level. They've got some Premier League talents and obviously a lot of cracking players. And I thought, from what I saw, you deserved obviously more than what you got, but you deserved more than even the point that you were very close to getting.
Yeah, I'd have taken the point, to be fair.
Yeah.
You're going away to a team in and around the same positions as you, and you take a draw to start with. If you come away with anything more, great, but we didn't, and it's not the end of the world. It's not going to derail our campaign, is it, by any stretch? Well, I don't think so, I hope not.
Well, hopefully not. I mean, you have got the team that are Suffolk and good, Ipswich, back to the international break. I just double checked now. I thought I shouldn't have picked them up as much in the intro because you've got them at the Hawthorns next game. I know it's 2 weeks off yet, but thoughts ahead of that one. I mean, they're good, but so are you. It looks like a really interesting game on paper, that one.
That's got potential to be. There's going to be goals. I'm fairly sure of that because Ipswich have got plenty of goals in them, as we've seen, and so have we. For a change, I'd say I'm obviously going to back my own team, but I reckon we can probably take that one 3-2, something like that. But if we don't, and that comes back to bite me, it is what it is.
No, they'll definitely be goals. No, I think Ipswich have scored in every single game for the last 20 odd games or something in League and Cup. There's some record they've gone on. They are ridiculous going forward, but they are shown as well. Teams have gone there and scored 3-4 goals past Portman Road, or when they've travelled away as well. So they are susceptible to back as well. Just a last thing about Albion this season, really sort of highlights and lowlights of this season so far.
Lowlights probably the injuries that we've had that have sort of stopped the consistency that we've had. Just trying to think of the highlights. I'm going to be slightly biased here and go with Alex Palmer being the first choice goalkeeper. For me, cause, I mean, it was only 5-a-side, but I played a lot in goal, so that's the sort of first position I look at. And after suffering David Button, I mean, no disrespect to him, and he's a professional goalkeeper. I've just played at the Cradley ballpark for a number of years, but he was shocking. Palmer looks solid, looks confident. He's about 27 now, so he's got some good years ahead of him still. He's made his, a lot of appearances out on loan. I think he went to Lincoln, possibly. I think he was at... No, it was Josh Griffiths, who's number 2, that was at Pompey. But he's been out on loan, got experience behind him. So he's not just been sat on the bench, which I think for a goalkeeper is possibly one of the worst things you can have, because if you're not there, playing and having the shots coming in at you, you suffer from, the boxers call it ring rust. So, I'm glad that he's one of our own as well, as the song goes, with a lot of teams that bring through youth players.
I've got a quick question, Mark. Just in terms of the, I think we're about 15 or 16 games into the Championship. We say this quite often on our podcast, that there's quite a lot of big names in the Championship, near enough every other season. We got Leeds and Leicester, obviously West Brom, Middlesbrough in there, Blackburn, historically the decent-ish side. How are you finding the standard of the Championship with so many sort of big names in there? There's quite a few that are ex-Premier League still, isn't there?
Yeah, I think it's improving season on season. I think what helps as well is, unlike in the Prem, where there's such a gulfing class between your teams that come up and, say your top 6, the Championship's that open most seasons that you could have, say, a list of, maybe half of the table, and you'd be like, I've got to pick 2 to go up automatically from that. No, not happening. It could be pretty much anyone, but like, say, Ipswich. They're doing pretty well, and on the other hand, you've got Sheffield Wednesday, who are not, basically.
It's an interesting one, because you look at, like, you're on about Sheffield Wednesday, and I've got a few mates who are Sheffield Wednesday fans, and you just think I think a few people tipped them to do okay this year. Possibly not top 4 or 3, what have you, but I think a few people thought they would do okay. But yeah, as you say, there's that many. You could quite easily get into a bad run against any of those, really. Ipswich and Leicester and Preston are still up there. We've obviously just seen them in 5th place. Sunderland seem to be always around there.
Look at Coventry from last season.
Look at Coventry.
Do you know what I mean? They're now looking the complete opposite end of the table. They were almost dead set to go back up to the Prem. And it just shows, what 12 months or less than 12 months can do to a side. Swansea, they were up there challenging, weren't they, last season? They're only just above them. You'll be pleased to see Birmingham struggling a little bit there towards the bottom, but I think that's probably only going to be temporary.
Birmingham aren't really on the radar as far as rivals go, to be fair. But no, Middlesbrough, who've had a decent run of results, and they've pulled away from the bottom of the league and doing all right now.
Yeah, I think it's from my own personal perspective. When the fixture list came out, and I was looking at Leicester's fixture list and saying, this could have been our fixture list if not for an Abdoulaye Doucouré worldie. And every week I look at, obviously I know Leicester are doing really well. They've lost the last 2 games, obviously away at Borough and home to Leeds. Both very tough fixtures in the Championship. Anyone can beat anyone in their day, unless you're Sheffield Wednesday or Rotherham, possibly QPR. I think we know the bottom 3 there already, lads. Although I do think QPR will do better under Marty Cifuentes. How do you pronounce it? Cifuentes, I'm going to say. Jiff became Cifuentes. The ex-Hammarby manager. He looks like a decent pickup, whether the players can adapt to that. But again, to go back, I just think and go, I would not fancy that. Obviously, we'd have lost a load of players. I just look at those sides and go, oh, as much as we're having not a great year now, I wouldn't fancy some of those away trips and Tuesday night at like Millwall or something. I just think that's got to be rough. It's a hard league, as you know, to get out of the right way, Mark. And hopefully, for your sake, you've done it a few times, certainly in our memory. You know, at one point, you know, I will say, weirdly, I hope this isn't disrespectful, but like, what was it like at one point being the archetypal, you know, what we see now is like the Fulham or the Norwich or the Bournemouth, the kind of yo-yo club? What was that like at the time? It must have been a bit odd.
It was to start with, but then we had that sort of 8-season stretch in the Prem, which kind of... people still tagged us as the yo-yo club because that's what we did after that first promotion. So we were up, down. You know, I think the only time within that sort of run really that we stayed in the Prem for more than a season was 04 to 06, which obviously had the Great Escape in between. But other than that, you know what, people can say what they like. You know, everyone's got their own opinions, and that's up to them really. But like I said, there's more teams doing it now, isn't there?
Oh, with the financial disparity now, it's very possible the 3 clubs that have come up, Burnley, Sheffield United and Luton, obviously from my own personal perspective, I don't wish any ill will to any of those clubs, but just as long as Everton don't go down, I don't really care if it does. In the nicest way, it may well be that those 3 go straight back down, which is a massive shame because I want to see different clubs come up and stay up and whatnot. But I think the gap financially and what's needed to bridge that is getting much more difficult in terms of the recruitment, the infrastructure, the style of players needed. You've seen Burnley, they've got cracking players, but the way they're playing is actually somewhat detrimental to them. So it is becoming more and more common. But you mentioned obviously the Great Escape. Were you? I don't know if you were there that day when you beat Portsmouth 2-0. Jeff Horsfield, Kieran Richardson, all that.
Yep, I was there.
I mean, you were gone at Christmas, weren't you, that year?
Yeah.
Well, you weren't because you didn't go down. Yeah. But what on earth? I mean, we came 4th that year. We were buzzing. I can't imagine what you guys were feeling.
I'll be honest, when that full-time whistle went and it turned out that we had survived thanks to Jonathan Fortune equalising for Charlton against Palace, I think I was just frozen, as if just like, my God, we've just done this. You know, the first time in Premier League, in inverted commas, whether it's the first time in top flight history, I don't know, but, you know, because we all know football started in 1992, didn't it? But yeah, it was just one of the most bizarre football rides I've ever been on. I'll tell you what had a big part to play in it as well was Ronnie Warwork, surprisingly.
Yes.
He was absolutely rotten to start with, but then something just happened to him and he was getting him putting in the tackles, playing those short, 10-yard passes, getting the attacking players on the ball. Yeah, and we just built momentum. But he was pivotal to that.
But the elephant, yeah.
Yeah, you had that sort of Man United contingent, didn't you, with him, Jonathan Greening, Kieran Richardson, obviously Brian Robson was the manager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crikey. Forgot all about Ronnie Warwork, blimey.
Carnu as well at the time.
Carnu, yes.
Yeah. How the hell we signed him, baffles me to this day. Someone who's played with the likes of Henry and Bergkamp, now he's playing with Ronnie Warwork and Neil Clement. And that's no disrespect to Clem either, because he,
No.
If he kicked a ball at me, I'd be in Mars.
Crikey, yeah. There's a lot of players there that you forget about, definitely, in terms of the terms of the Man United contingency that you're talking about as well. I completely forgot all about Ronnie Warwork. I know he was a Man United, obviously, roughly about 50 games for United, I would have thought. But, crikey. Brian Robson is manager. Gosh, yeah.
Yeah. No, they've had cracking players how many years of the Albion. I remember, obviously, they bought Kevin Campbell off us not long after.
He played a big part as well, to be fair.
Yes. He was absolutely fantastic. So, no, good memories, that Albion team, except for when they spanked us 4-0 at Hawthorns the following season around Christmas time, and we were absolutely dog shit.
I went to that one.
Did you? Yeah.
I watched it from home, thankfully. We were awful, but fair play, you absolutely smashed us that day.
Gosh.
Everyone was beating us 4-0 around that time anyway.
Yeah,
so,
that season, we had the likes of Ellington, Earnshaw, Carnu up front.
Yes.
But not playing Earnshaw was a mistake for me.
Yes.
I don't know if something went on with him and Robson, but he's probably one of the best finishers I've seen in my time as an Albion fan. And he got that hat-trick away at Charlton as well in the 04-05 season. Against someone who went on to play for us, Dean Kiley.
Dean Kiley, yeah.
Dean Kiley, there's another blast from the past.
If we're talking about quality players, we've got to mention Jason Tues as well.
Oh, yeah. You're a fan of Tues, aren't you, Deck? Yeah.
Oh, what a man.
Yeah.
He's just his raw talent was just you can't teach that. Do you know what I mean? I think possibly is, and I think it's been well documented, especially during his time at West Brom, that it was his attitude really that held him back. And I think Tues would openly say that football was never something he enjoyed; he was just good at, and it was just a job to him. Do you know what I mean? But what a player.
I think if he had his time again, he'd probably sort of adapt himself a bit differently. Yeah. But I mean, I remember him scoring. He scored quite a few goals for us, but there's one against Man United. And he just picked it up. I don't know how far into their half it was. He just went past a couple of players, edge of the area, just bent it in, bottom corner. Who'd have been in goal then for United?
Right.
I want to say Van der Sar.
Maybe.
Roy Carroll.
Van
der Sar,
yeah.
Possibly. Without looking up, I don't know, but...
Just different quality of player. Certainly one of the best that I've seen come through at Tranmere, and arguably one of the best products of the club that we've ever, up there with your Ryan Taylors and stuff. But Tues I mean, Gerrard wrote about him in his autobiography, didn't he, and said that he was 10 times the player he was, but it was just effort that got Gerrard that got him through ahead of him. He said that no one could get near him. But just thought to throw him into the mix.
Funnily enough, I signed his son on the last version of Football Manager for Harrogate.
Oh yeah.
And as people say these days, he was doing bits. He was just like his old man. He was absolutely untouchable.
Yeah, his son.
Put him in that sort of number 10 role behind the striker.
He's doing very well at the.
I didn't realise.
No, I was just going to say he's doing very well at Liverpool youth level. There was rumour that we were going to sign him. In the transfer window there in the summer, but I think in terms of a loan, but I think he's only sort of 17, maybe just turned 18. It'll be a big step in terms of the physicality side, but by all accounts, I think young Lewis is doing very, very well. And if he's got his head screwed on, I think he's definitely got the potential to go on and have a big career ahead of him at whatever level.
Definitely. So I didn't realise, because I do a bit on Football Manager for the podcast. I just saw him and think, someone called Tues, didn't even think anything about it. And I looked at him, Googled it. It's like, oh crap, it's Jason's son. So there you go.
And there was actually you're talking about players coming through the ranks at Tranmere that play for West Brom. There's a lad that came through the ranks at Rochdale that went to West Brom. That's Craig Dawson. You're absolutely fantastic for Rochdale. Yes. You're unbelievable. You were. I think you were in double figures as a centre-back for goals, I think, at the time. And then I think West Brom signed him and then loaned him back.
Didn't we?
But he was, for us, he was unbelievable. I think he's probably the best centre-back we've had, or I've seen in my lifetime anyway. What was he like at West Brom? I remember trying to follow him at West Brom. I remember it being okay anyway, but yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, he played under the likes of Pulis, so if you're a centre-back under Tony Pulis, you're always going to start.
Yeah.
He had a thing once, I think he played 4 centre-halves. I think it was Dawson right-back, I think it was something like Johnny Evans left-back, and Jonas Olsen and Gareth McCauley in the middle. Wow. So hardly blessed with pace, but Dawson, he seems to have got better with age. Yeah. I think it's just like his reading of the game, and obviously he's plying his trade back in the West Midlands now down at the Molineux. And, you see him on Match of the Day, he's making those last-ditch sort of John Terry-esque challenges, where he's just getting in front of everything, whether it hits him on the face, chest, somewhere where it hurts a lot more than that, But, what the last thing he did for the Albion was scored against the Villa, so
he's
can't argue with that.
What a way to bow out, I guess, eh? With his West Brom colours. Wow, absolutely.
Absolutely. Going to say, I thought his name would be mud now with his current allegiances, but I guess maybe a lot of water's passed under that bridge since his Albion days.
Yeah, I think because he didn't go directly there, it's not as bad. It's like I know some Man United fans who say this about Paul Ince, and he went to Liverpool, didn't he? But because it was via Inter Milan, wasn't it?
I think it was actually.
Yeah,
and it wasn't directly to him. It's not as bad. So,
gosh,
that makes sense. Fair enough. Absolutely. You mentioned about doing obviously football manager work on the podcast. Obviously, your podcast is Project Football. Tell us a bit more and the listeners a bit more about your podcast that you do, Project Football. A bit more about what you cover and just anything at all, really.
It's a hobby ultimately. It started up back end of 2020. We'd had that idea for it. There was a chap I used to work with who does, well, I presume he still does it, an online radio show that was based around literature, plays, poems, all that sort, spoken word, all that sort of thing. And he's a big football fan. So he asked me and his stepbrother if we wanted to sort of do a football bit and sort of tie it in with that, review a book or something along those lines. But that never came off. And it was about 8 years later, over the course of lockdown, I thought, you know what, I'll dust it off and have a go myself. And here we are almost 3 years later. It's changed slightly since I did the first one. And, the amount of people that I've met, not directly, obviously, not physically, but interacted with over the likes of Twitter and what have you, it's been great. And as for the basis of it, I'll get the guests on and we'll talk about how they became, a fan of who they are, who they support now, all the background. It's been mostly bands, so we'll talk about the background musically as well. And then that's when the randomness comes in. So if you've listened to it before, I do a bit called 5 from 5. So 5 questions out of 5 blocks of 11. And it could be something as random as, which footballer would you send to meet aliens if they landed on Earth? That sort of thing. It's just a bit of a laugh, ultimately. What else have I got? It's been that long since I did a guest one. I'm trying to think now. 4 for you. So I asked the guests to pick 5 matches that they could have experienced from the point of view of a certain player involved in that game. So, the obvious example for me is like sort of Jeff Hurst in '66, that sort of thing. And then we've got a Trippier through time. So I like a bit of a pun on these, as you might have gathered. A bit of a twist on your normal 1 to 11. So you've got a choice of players from the 60s through to now, but you've only got 2 slots from any of the decades to fill. So that makes it a little bit more interesting. So if you're like, I've got these 2 from the 70s, but I want a third, do I get rid of one of these? Or, sort of, what's it called? Sophie's choice?
I like that idea. It's a great idea.
Yeah.
So
yes, it's a good. I mean, I've tried it out with a couple of friends and my other half's family who are all big West Brom fans, thankfully. So yeah, they were scratching their heads with it. It's like, oh no, it's like with Brian Robson.
Think of that.
You could have had him in the 70s or the 80s because I think he just about spanned the 2. So yeah, I'll say the whole idea of it's just a hobby. I enjoy doing it. Bit of a laugh. Yeah, and I've discovered that much new music out of it as well, because that's one of my other loves. It is music, and I'll say with that, having a lot of bands on there has helped. I've seen a few of them live as well, which has been really good.
I do think football and music just go hand in hand, don't they? I think it's just that culture of kind of like indie rock, kind of vinyl, whatever, along with your football and a pint on a Saturday and that kind of, it's just that like ingrained. And I don't know whether it's, obviously it's not just a northern thing, but I think it's like, it's more obvious like up north. And all the kind of like fashion culture, or like your Adidas shoes and the nice going to the match day. And I think music's always been a part of that. I know I've alluded to it a couple of times on the podcast before, but the book, Kevin Sampson's Away Days, the soundtrack to that is just, I'd say, arguably better than the book and the film. The soundtrack is just like unbelievable, and it is just that thing of like I don't know, music and football just go together. Like I don't know, chocolates and biscuits. There you go. That'll be on a big poster somewhere someday, Jimmy. He's looking at me like I've got 12 heads.
T-shirts.
The new Christmas merch is dropping soon. It's a T-shirt with Dex quote on.
Music and football.
That's
like
the thing I like. You got your.
I'd look good
you
on
got
a Christmas
your pre-match playlist, don't you?
Yeah.
Oh, this is it. Yeah,
that sort of thing.
It's
Tranmere have started doing an interesting thing. So they'd done it originally where it was like, like the fans would send them requests. So it'd be like the same sort of 5 or 6 songs that would always be played, plus then maybe say 10, 15 more. And now over the last couple of weeks, they've started going through the squad. So the pre-match playlist is picked by one of the players.
We did
as well.
that
I think that's
at some point. Yeah. The players pick it, and it's like
so like midday
the
on
taste
Saturday.
of some of them.
It was
What
like
the hell are you listening
Michael
to?
Jackson, followed by like Wagon Wheel, followed by some mad songs in there.
I'm really glad I'm not a professional footballer because memories of taste is absolutely shocking.
I'd be booed before I kicked the ball.
They'd refuse to sign me based on my playlists. It'd be like,
could you get a yellow card for a bad song?
Changes vinyl.
Yellow card for a bad song. There you go.
Yeah.
Are you, Deck? Are you collecting vinyl these days? Have you got a player?
Yeah.
I thought I saw it on your Instagram.
It started about 2 years ago, just as a bit of I think everyone was. I've always been into my music. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Still CDs in my car, which is why I'm begrudging to get rid of the car. But and then about 2-3 years ago, got a record player for Christmas with a few, and I treated myself last month to a new setup. So I got a good deal on it. But a couple of probably about 50-60 vinyls now, but they're so expensive.
Yes, they are.
You're trying to find like half decent ones, charity shops and all that, but they've already been had, haven't they? You end up, going through. Who do you normally come across? Shirley Bassey's normally a hit in the charity shops. Rod Stewart.
It's interesting.
I'm enjoying it. Yeah.
It's like my mum and dad have still got some of their vinyls from like the 80s and the 70s and maybe before. I'm not too sure, but some of the artwork is incredible. I think it was. I think it's Tom Jones, and it's like an oil painting of him from the 70s, and it's just incredible. And like, it's the I think it's lost now, isn't it? In terms of like, there used to be a great music store in Bury where I grew up, and it was called Vibes, and like my dad used to go there as well. So there's like a bit of a thing there. Me and my dad used to go through different timelines, obviously, and not religiously, but in terms of going for the vinyl, getting on the bus. It's all lost now, isn't it? All of that and looking through all the vinyl. I mean, it's sort of coming back, obviously, but I mean, in terms of it did go away, is what I was trying to say. But yeah, some of the rituals in terms of looking at vinyls and waiting for them to be ordered and coming in and things like that, or even CDs to a lesser degree almost. But yeah, it's all gone. Well, it was lost, wasn't it? A little bit, but I'm glad it's back a little bit because you see them in like HMV.
It's coming back, and the sound difference and stuff like. Not sounding like too technical and Mark chipping as well, but I think that the sound, like when you're listening to something on vinyl, it sounds totally different. I mean, I can't say the name of the smart speakers around the house as they'll set all the lights off and whatever, but like I have them on all the time. Like there's always something. The TV's very rarely on. But yeah, since I've upgraded the system and stuff, and they're just getting absolutely hammered now. Fontaine's DC, Inhaler, one of my favourite albums that I've got, right? And it came back in one. I know we've gone a little bit off topic with football, but there you go. Mark, you're used to this by the sounds of it on your pod. One of my favourite vinyls that I got, I was actually sent accidentally, so someone used it. I bought Fontaine's DC's new album on eBay, and the lad had put like 2 other vinyls either side of it. He obviously didn't have any cardboard or whatever to protect it. So one of them was a Rod Stewart album, which I think got lashed the second I got hold of it. But the other one was Spike by Elvis Costello. That's such a good album. Like, so many good songs on there, and I never would have bought it. So that was like I'd probably play that more than I do the Fontaine's track that I spent 35 quid on. So yeah, it's good when you pick up, or when people like suggest new bands to you or new artists or whatever. Yeah, I'm all about that. And it's always random stuff that I'm listening to as well. So yeah, there you go.
I was going to say, if you want new bands, I've got playlists from here to next week that's just from the guests that I've had on.
Yeah. Fantastic. No, that'd be boss. I'll be in touch.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely listen to that. Absolutely.
God, definitely. Do you have any match day playlists or any sort of football any music to get you in the zone before a game, or just?
Not particularly, but as what's been associated with Albion for many years is when the Liquidator kicks in over the speakers, it just gives everyone that bit of like, we're almost ready. It's almost kick-off time now, and I know it's been played at various other grounds, like Chelsea use it. Obviously, they just clap along and shout Chelsea to it. We have got our own lyrics to it, which are slightly derogatory towards Wolverhampton Wanderers, but they played it as well. So I think they just shout the same words, but swap us and them round. So it's all good.
Yeah.
But they've started playing Thunderstruck as well.
Oh, I like that
as part of the pre-match. So just put those two on loop. I'm happy.
I noticed. I think it's Arsenal are doing a lot of random sort of songs. I think they started doing WWE songs at halftime.
Yeah,
it's like that's quite interesting.
Yeah,
they played like Triple H's theme tune at one point, haven't they? And they've obviously got that new. Yeah,
see that Metalingus, absolute tune that is.
Oh yeah,
Metalingus. Unbelievable song.
Brilliant.
I've got the live version on my Spotify favourites, and it's when that comes on.
You can't play it, mate. You can't. We'll get done for with that now. You'll get us done for watch copyright now, mate. With that.
Mate. Yeah. I better stop.
It's all right. It was the karaoke version. It's fine.
It's the
karaoke version. It's all good now. But it's amazing how like emotive and how sort of we become creatures of habit with football music. Like, obviously Dak and I will go Prenton Park, and as soon as Zombie Nation kicks in before the Rockford Files, it's like it's like almost like Pavlovian response, isn't it? The drum gets going. I fume at the drummer probably because there's like 2 seats next to me, and it's just like, and it's just amazing how we're just creatures of habit. We don't even realise how we get used to that kind of without the music. Imagine if there wasn't any music getting pumped into the grounds. It'd be the pre-match warm would be largely dull. It'd be largely shouting, talking, just chatting away. And of course, the obvious thing is without music, we wouldn't have terrace chants and terrace songs, which is the lifeblood of any atmosphere. Yeah. So, as to allude to Deck's point at the very beginning of this segment, really is that music and football absolutely go hand in hand. There are some incredible football songs out there, incredible football chants. Some not so good, admittedly. Some a bit derogatory, to say the least. But no, I think sometimes the more derogatory, the funnier. But it is something that is intertwinable, and without music, football wouldn't be the same.
I think one of the bands that sums that up best.
They're both forms of entertainment.
Sorry, Mark. One of the bands that sums that up the best for me. I mean, they're another local band the Tranmere fans actually. Whether you've heard of a band called Half Man Half Biscuit. And a lot of their music is literally like
great name.
It's superb, and it's all of the albums are kind of like rip-offs, if that makes sense. So rather than like Achtung Baby, it'll be like like Achtungs Baby, kind of like that kind of. So it'll be like a play on words and stuff. And a lot of the songs are all about. So one of the most famous songs is All I Want for Christmas is a Duke La Prada away shirt. And when you they've literally just put stories to music, and the lyrics, give them a go. I'll drop you a message after this with one of their albums, but they're brilliant. But just going back to what Jimmy was saying with the Rockford Files, obviously like a American cop show and whatever. There's a few theories in terms of how we came to have that. Because it's not a football song by any means. Obviously, we can't play it. But one of the theories was that we used to play our games in the 70s and 80s. A lot of our home games were played on a Friday night. One, to draw the crowd in before, obviously, Liverpool or Everton playing on the Saturday. And the Rockford Files was played on BBC Two at the same time as Kickoff on a Friday night, so it was kind of like a tongue-in-cheek thing of like you could be sat at home watching the telly, but actually you're at Prenton Park. So that's obviously no one actually knows, and there's been a few times where they've tried to like tweak it or change it, and people have gone mad. So it's just like to know what like anyone else, it'd be like most people wouldn't even recognise it as a theme tune now, I suppose. But that's just like I don't think that will ever change. They used to sing in the 90s and early noughties as well when they were really like sell out to home and whatnot. We Will Rock You used to be played before the game, and it'd be like 3 sides of the ground just going at the away end, and it used to be like a real like intimidation thing, and it worked to an extent. And then obviously the results faded away and they stopped singing it
until 2001.
And then it all went downhill. But as we say, football and music are just
It's interesting because like there's a few songs that they play at Rochdale. It's mostly the Stone Roses. Well, it used to be, but like my dad's not very good with like remembering songs and artists and things like that. And he goes, "This is the one they play at Scotland. It's the one they play at Scotland." And he's like, he remembers it as the songs that they play at the football, and he can't remember who they are or what the song's called. But when it's on the radio, you go, "Oh, it's this is them. This is the one that they play at Scotland." So it's interesting how you sort of remember things like that. Yeah.
So if it wasn't for the music side of things, I wouldn't have as many episodes as I've got for my pod. So I'm very grateful for it. And to bang the drum for new music as well. There's that many new acts out there. You just need to find them. But again, this isn't a music podcast, so we'll get back onto the.
No, it's fine. It's nice to.
We're happy.
Oh yeah, it's nice.
Happy to talk music.
That could be a completely separate episode.
Greg's only sounded like his Rochdale lost to Wilson at the weekend. He wants to talk about music.
I'll talk about anything. I'm not bothered.
We do need anything
to avoid the
we should do a music episode.
Yeah.
We'll get Mark on and we'll all chip in, say, like 3 artists for us to all go and listen to or whatever. We'll do that as well after the Grand Theft Auto trailers come out properly. And,
yes. We've been planning the Grand Theft Auto episode somehow. It was supposed to be pre-season, wasn't it? And then...
but then
life sort
for some reason.
What about 10 years ago?
When we requested
it. Yeah, that's right. That deck,
yeah.
Funny you mentioned GTA, because did you ever play GTA London on the PS1?
Yes.
Oh,
long time ago.
No, I haven't.
Well, you could put the game disc into your CD player and it would play the soundtrack.
Now you've said it, I remember. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Right. Well, the Liquidator was on that.
Oh, Deck's got a PlayStation to hand. There you go.
Yes.
Liquidators
are the mini ones, but I've got the old school one. It's on there, yeah.
Blimey. That's pretty good.
Amazing. I mean, to be weirdly, I have discovered songs through Grand Theft Auto as well. Just listening to the radios on that. Obviously, I won't say which songs.
Great game.
Oh, what a game!
Decky's just showing the.
Deck's just showed off his video game collection of this podcast. Sending it to Deck, just showing. No, Deck, put that away. Put that away, Deck. We don't want to see that. I won't describe what he showed us now.
And if anyone's interested, Asda have got a cracking deal on. Other supermarkets are available. But I got £12 off. Asda rewards. All the reward cards are available.
Very nice.
But there you go. So if anyone's interested, Asda's the place to go. Anyway, back to GTA in your CD player. So I didn't know that.
No, I forgot all about that. I remember now you've said it. It's one of those that I've just completely forgotten about. Wow.
That's amazing.
Crikey.
Yeah, good times.
Absolutely. I mean, GTA 5's 10 years old. That blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind.
Dear me.
I know. Well, I mean, we've waited that long for GTA 6 or whatever it's going to be called to come out. They've been working on the online content that much, and for those who don't play online gaming, it's kind of like, all right, whatever. So, yeah.
Do we think it'll be in America, or do we think they'll move it back to London? I've got a funny feeling it might be UK-based,
There's rumours of it.
I think
because the last 4 or 5 have been America, haven't they? So they might bring it back to the roots.
I think it's easier to parody a US city like New York, LA. I don't know if they're going to do multiple cities, but not like a San Andreas, but like kind of fly between like a reimagined Vice City or like one Chicago based on New Orleans based, or maybe somewhere over the border in Mexico, a bit like Red Dead did or something. I don't know. There's all kinds of things. Talk of Japan, Hong Kong.
They could base it on Birkenhead North.
I mean, if you saw the bonfire people,
I saw that.
GTA Online.
I won't say any more than that. I drove past that because I'd been in Birkenhead Park in the morning. I'm like, what on earth's that? And I realised it was bonfire night. They were building this thing. I'm like, that's massive. And I saw obviously the photo later, which you won't describe what was on top of the bonfire because it's not very appropriate.
But anyway. Moving away from that, but Birkenhead North GTA. I think that's not that's not legs.
You could say, Jim.
It won't have legs for very long.
Oh gosh, yeah.
All wheels. Anyway, moving on. We'll try and segue this back to football.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And talking of wheels,
I believe
we're having a really bad season. Anyway, go on. Back onto. That was an attempt of a segue.
No, I've just discussing. Obviously, you spoke about questions and quizzes and things like that, Mark. I believe you love a bit of Would You Rather. Am I right in thinking of I misread that or missed?
I did kind of to start with in earlier episodes, sort of like The question's not quite a straight up would you rather, but it was along those sort of lines.
Right.
But I think there's that many questions that I put through, especially the 5 from 5 segment. I can't remember half of them, to be fair.
Oh, God, no, it's absolutely fine. No, I've just got a little would you rather. It's a dead simple one, really, and it's something we've alluded to earlier. It's the final game of the season, 2-horse race for the Premier League title. Wolves or Villa could win the league. Who would you rather win it?
Good question. I'd probably say... I mean, obviously, the obvious answer is I don't want to say either of them. I'd rather they both lose. And
absolutely, of course.
But
it's very hypothetical, this question.
Yeah. In terms of this, I'd probably say Wolves.
Okay.
Purely because, and I know a few Villa fans, and most of them talk sense, but there's a few that I know that talk absolute twaddle, should we say? And if ever there was a debate come up about football, their go-to response would, we won the European Cup in 1982. Great, that was like 40 years ago. I'm not saying that Wolves fans wouldn't harp on about winning the league, but I think, and from a regional point of view, that would be the difference between being from the Black Country and from Birmingham. And it could, it might not be all the fans, but the ones that do give it the big and would proper go for it. So I'll go with the orange and black lot from up the road.
Interesting choice. Interesting.
Fair enough. So in terms of Midlands football, then would you say then Villa are more, for you personally, more of a rival than Wolves, or is it always the Black Country derby's the big one? Or
for me personally, it's been Wolves, but ironically, because of where West Brom is in terms of being the difference between like the Sandwell Borough and going into Birmingham, Villa are actually geographically closer.
Yes.
But obviously West Brom and Wolves are still in the same region. But since I've been going up, and I started in the late 80s, it's always been Wolves have been the rivals because we've been in the same division more often than not. Whereas when my dad was going, for example, through the 60s through the 70s before I was born, Villa were always the ones that we were playing against mostly. But the one for me is Wolves.
Absolutely. Yeah, fair enough. Right, lads, so any other business results from the weekend? Obviously, Dak, you mentioned about the Rovers win against the Vegans. A rivalry going back from the National League days.
To the,
nice to get one
to
over
the
Dale Bins.
Carnivals.
1-0 to the Meat Eaters.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to... Everything is... you've got to look at everything in context, haven't you? Forest Green are down there as well. So let's not get carried away in terms of, you've won 3-0. Having said that, though, they've started to pick results up in recent weeks. Our performances have slowly improved under Atkins. There's obviously a lot of talk around the club at the minute.
Say the Atkins diet
is working, and the meat feast that he served up on Saturday was somewhat applaudable. With his, I know it's coming away from the results a little bit, but for him to have signed a 2.5-year deal, I can't remember the last time that we gave a manager that length of contract. I know obviously higher up the divisions, that is, your kind of bread and butter. But, for a club who are quite openly saying, we don't have money, we can't go and sign X, Y, and Z player, everyone's kind of on 12-month contracts, etc. Reading between the lines, and this is not an in the know at all, but with the number of Palios has come out in the last couple of weeks and basically said within the next 12 months the club will be sold. He can't see himself being there as owner. He may still be there in terms of helping to run the club and so on. I don't know whether Atkins has kind of signed that knowing that someone is coming in, whether something has already happened. And he knows in January he's going to be significantly backed, because you would certainly suspect that he would be a bigger... You're going to need some kind of pull factor to the club apart from money. So if you're, Joe Bloggs and you're coming into a team who is struggling to fight relegation, or, potentially by then we could be more mid-table, that season's kind of null and void and you sign him for the following year. So I don't know. I think there's going to be some interesting developments as we... come closer towards the January transfer window. But yeah, performances have improved. To see Norris and Dennis up top as a 4-4-2, two out-and-out strikers. The first time we've seen it all season, absolutely brilliant. Forest Green couldn't cope with both of them. How Norris didn't score a hat-trick, I don't know, let alone to score one. Just his performance as a centre-forward. However, he's gone down injured and looks to have been in a lot of pain and a lot of frustration again, having just come back after kind of 3 or 4 months on the sideline. So, yeah, it's a mixed bag. Obviously, great to have got the win. I think we'd lost 7 or 8 or something stupid on the bounce. So, a really good performance. We've now got Sutton away on Saturday, who obviously are down there with us, relegation fodder, as we are.
Massive.
Yeah, if they can go and get 3 points against them and then follow that up maybe with a draw or another win, you start pulling away from that bottom 2. And, the gap between, if you can pull another 3 or 4 point gap between kind of where we are and sort of 16th, 17th place, you can climb that division quite quickly. And I think we've still got to have that in mind that, if they can get in and around sort of 15th, 16th and have a good January, the season's still very, very young. But at the same time, if things continue to go the way that they have been, your games run out very quickly when you're chasing those points. So the season's still very open for me. I don't think it's a done and dusted season by any means. There's some very exciting players there, but there's also a lot of dead wood that needs to be gotten rid of quite quickly. So January will be interesting. But yeah, good to be on the right end of a 3-0 result for once.
We contacted a few other football podcasts and some of the close friends of the show who generously shared their thoughts and opinions from the weekend's results through voice notes. Just a big thank you to those who participated in this new segment, and we hope that you enjoy listening. Thank you.
It's Frank Herbert, Evertonian. If Dyche starts the same team as started against Brighton, except he replaces Young with Patterson, then I think we'll have a hard-fought, narrow win at Palace.
Hi, I'm Jamie. I'm a Newcastle United fan. Just dropping a note about the weekend's result against Bournemouth. Obviously, it's not the result that we wanted. We didn't play well at all. In fact, I would say that it's probably one of the worst performances that I've seen since Eddie Howe took over. None of it's really our fault. It's just the situation that we're in with our injuries. I did think that we saw this again against West Ham a couple of weeks ago after a European match where we just seemed to be either tired or lost the motivation to get going, although we were off the back of a good PSG win that time. Came out second half on that game and made a big difference. I was expecting the same against Bournemouth this weekend and didn't. We were just flat again. Probably just the fact that we're stripped to the bare bones of our team. I'm trying to look for positives, and really the only thing I can see is that international breaks came at a perfect time for us. Hopefully Isak will be back and then we can push Gordon back into the position that he should be playing. I just want to maybe highlight that Joe Linton played really well as well on Saturday, so it wasn't all bad. He's back from his injuries and he seems to be firing really well all over the pitch, commanding, so that was good. Just hoping that we can get some of our key players back and kick on and take it from there.
Hi, it's Matt from the A Trip to the Moon podcast here. A really impressive and important 3-0 win for Tranmere at the weekend as they beat Forest Green Rovers. Always nice to get one over on Forest Green Rovers, given the rivalry that those two clubs have built up since the National League years. But an important victory for Tranmere in the context of this season as well. Really struggling at the wrong end of the table. They'd lost 6 in a row going into this one. They needed to pick something up out of it against a relegation rival, and they certainly did that. Loads of positives, one of them being Luke Norris making his return to the starting lineup in a league match. That's not something we've seen enough of this season due to his injuries, and he certainly had an impact. He was able to play in a 4-4-2 formation up front alongside Christian Dennis, and Christian Dennis isn't someone we've necessarily seen the best of since he came to Tranmere, and I think that's mainly down to the fact he hasn't had a proper strike partner to play alongside. He's often been playing in a 4-3-3. He's been on the wide right of that 3, and it just hasn't worked for him particularly well. But in that 4-4-2 this weekend, he had the support, Christian Dennis, and he got a brilliant goal as well. The Luke Norris effect, also, though, a bit of a Luke Norris problem because he's picked up another injury, and that's what's really soured this game for Tranmere. He's been out for so long. Suddenly he comes back. He plays really well in the 4-3 defeat to Stevenage in the FA Cup. He does really well in a 3-0 victory over Forest Green, but he limps off and thumps the turf in frustration in doing so as well. And if that injury is another long-term one, 6 weeks, 2 months, whatever it might be, that is certainly going to be damaging to Tranmere's hopes of staying up because they've got no one else in the squad who can remotely do what he does up front. He can play with his back to goal. He can bring the ball down. He can bring other players into the team. He can play as the central figure in the penalty area as well. He does so much and he offers a lot to other players. I think he is almost irreplaceable in that Rovers squad. And if he is going to be out for a long period of time, then another run of bad results could be around the corner. Let's hope not, though, because there are other players finding form, and one of them is certainly Rob Apter. He's been someone we've been calling out to see a little bit more of in the starting lineup since his arrival from Blackpool. Fleeting moments in substitute appearances. Well, finally he's come into the starting lineup in recent weeks and he has really impressed. He did well against Stockport, had a couple of shots that were superbly saved by Ben Hinchcliffe in that defeat. Then played really well at Stevenage in the FA Cup. He got himself a fantastic goal in that one and he was on the score sheet again against Forest Green, coming in onto that left foot, putting the ball in the bottom corner. Lovely stuff from him, and hopefully that form can continue. Again, a little bit of a concern. That loan is up at the end of the year, and you'd expect that Blackpool will want to see him either playing in League One with them or maybe playing at a higher League 2 club. But fingers crossed Tranmere can keep hold of him because he's a really positive and exciting player to watch. The other positive, I guess, is the clean sheet. Tranmere just haven't had enough of them this season. Only 2, if memory serves me right. And both of those have come at Prenton Park against Harrogate and Accrington in victories. We'll add a third to that collection now with the 3-0 win against Forest Green. Turnbull and Davis look much better at the back. My opinion on that is because there was more protective cover in front of them in the midfield. I think the midfield has been a little bit gung-ho in the 4-3-3 formation. There haven't been the sitting players there. And I'm still not sure they had the sitting players. Hendry and Walker made up that midfield too, and they were much more effective as a 2 than they have been when they've been playing with a 3, with maybe Connor Jennings or Kieran Morris alongside them in there. So they offer protection for the back 4. As a result, the back 4 look more comfortable, and as a result of that, Tranmere go on and get an important win. As I say, not without its negatives and not without a few hiccups as well. McGee had to make some crucial saves at crucial points in the game to maintain that clean sheet. But the important thing is Tranmere are back to winning ways in a game they simply could not afford to lose. Forest Green are one of their relegation rivals, and they've got another just on the horizon as well, Sutton United this coming weekend. If Tranmere lose that, they'll be back in the relegation zone, you would think, depending, of course, on Forest Green's results. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. They've had wins down at Sutton before. Another one of them would be very nice.
Hello lads, this is Glyn Parry from the Obstructed View podcast. A very happy Evertonian after another victory again in the Premier League for Everton. Everton's away form is now looking quite good, to be honest. Another victory in London. That's 3 played in London and 3 won in London. Results against Brentford, West Ham and now Palace in the capital. So Everton are loving trips to the Big Smoke. This leaves Everton 8 points above the relegation zone. Since the last international break, we've played 5, won 3, drawn 1, lost 1. The only game lost was the Merseyside derby at Anfield, which I think Everton fans still feel like had we had a competent referee that game, we probably might not have lost that either. So yeah, the form's looking really good from the last 5. We go into the next international break now. The away form is really sort of improved since last season. 2 losses in 9 away from home, 9 points from 9 in London, like I've just said, and the general form's reading 6 wins in 9. So fantastic results at the minute for Everton. And if we look back at the Palace game particularly, Everton are setting up with a resolute defence. Mikalenko, who's man of the match, played left back, Tarkowski, Branthwaite and Young, and we are actively allowing teams possession. It is a counter to high possession football, which is pretty much widespread throughout the Premier League now. We're actively going into games, allowing teams to have possession, and then we're pressing in certain areas, targeted areas, for them to make mistakes. The mistakes are leading to counters and our goals, to be honest. If you look at the stats from these games Everton are winning away from home, you will see Everton have very little of the ball, and it probably looks like Everton have been dominated in large spells of the game. But Everton are actively allowing teams to have possession. This tactic relies a lot on people like Jordan Pickford and the defenders. And Jared Branthwaite probably didn't have his best game this weekend. He gave away a penalty. He nearly gave away a second penalty. I think it's something he can learn from, definitely. But the second penalty was a bit of an elaborate dive from Eze, who was probably their best player, I think. Much improved form from Everton. Another victory away from home. We're getting goal scorers from different positions. Mikalenko, left back, scored. Idrissa Gueye scored. And once again, Abdoulaye Doucouré, who's our second top scorer at the moment, scored once again. So, very positive signs for Everton. It's a chance now to go into the international break. We get another chance to sort of get our players back up to full fitness. We hope everybody comes back from international duty okay. And then we go into a very tough Christmas period with our small squad. But Evertonians will be looking forward to the international break ending, because we welcome Erik ten Hag's Manchester United to Goodison Park. And that'll be a match we will be hoping to get some more points from. Up the Toffees.
Hi everyone, Stig Strand here from Leyland originally, but an avid Rochdale fan, have been now for the past 37 years or so. So yeah, it's been a journey, highs and lows all the way through it. But let's talk about this season. Let's talk about yesterday's game. Very, very disappointing result, but I think we've got thick skin now as Dale fans. We've got used to it, really. I think if anything, it's the inevitable is always going to happen, whether it's the last minute, 2 minutes before half time, etc. We are always in a state of play where we can concede a goal, and that is a big worry, especially with, if you think about it, the centre backs that we've got this season. The only player we've got in reserve now is Ferguson, and I must admit, I don't think I've seen anything really in Ferguson which convinces me that even him coming back into the team is going to help us to keep clean sheets this season. I think a few things to point out from yesterday were that, it was end-to-end. It was better football than what we've seen last season. There's still a lot of flaws in this team. When you play Clayton in midfield and they have to change the team around to accommodate three what I class as very similar players in East, Clayton, and Gilmore, it just doesn't work for me. I think appreciate what Jim was saying with regards to Jez being on the bench due to sickness, but again, that instilled change that we had to enforce into the team yesterday led to us playing the way we did, really. I think a flat 4-4-2 is where we've had our best results this season. I think Jim needs to react to that better, but with a very limited squad, extremely limited budget, and still no signs or anything in terms of communication from the board to give us confidence that funds are on the way. Rumours in the background, can't obviously talk too openly about this, but I'm hearing that potential things have happened behind the scenes, and if that's the case, then the trust needs to come forward sooner rather than later and tell us all what's happening. It's worrying times. I don't think right now we're in a position whereby mid-table is anything more than a pipe dream. I think as the season progresses now, I think this team will start to falter. I think this budget is going to give us a situation whereby we are forced into these sort of changes that we made yesterday, which will impact the team and impact the results. I think Jim, on the whole, is doing a good job. I think he's a bit naive, but that is what we expect from a manager who's in his first job, and he still has my backing. Although a lot of fans now becoming disgruntled, I feel that the clock is ticking. A few more results like this, and especially if we lose at home against Aldershot on Saturday, the callers will start to come out. I think Jim will start to really not enjoy his time, especially in the home games with the main stand behind him. I think Keith Hill used to really suffer from fans dictating substitutions and shouting obscenities, etc. But I can see the writing on the wall. I think everyone can. Back to yesterday's game, last minute goal conceded awful from across. We have to get this sorted out. Whether we can do that with this existing group of players, I'm a little unsure. I think if anything, there needs to be more training focused drills with regards to set plays and defending crosses. You know, who needs to be where, etc. during certain set plays, etc. It's still a little unsure whether or not we're playing man-to-man or zonal marking, and again, it needs to come out on the pitch. Disappointing from yesterday. I think what we can take into consideration is that there are still goals in this team, but again, to score 2 goals away from home, to go in the lead twice, and then to still lose 3-2 to a part-time team. Let's just face that fact. It's a part-time team. We're a full-time professional group right now, but how long for, I don't know. So yeah, those are my thoughts on yesterday's game. I'm sure a lot of you will agree with them. I'm sure maybe some won't, etc. But we can only I suppose play what's in front of us, and let's hope against Aldershot next weekend that the lads can regroup. We can get Ferguson back on the bench, etc. Maybe get John onto the left-hand side of the pitch, switch Keohane back onto the right, and let's just see how the season ends.
Hi fellas, it's Gary from the Waterball podcast. Just sending you in my review of Sunderland's 3-1 win against Birmingham City at the weekend. In a nutshell, we did not play very well, got to be completely honest. We looked very shaky at the back. That was to be expected, especially with Dennis Cirkin pulling up injured in the warm-up, which meant that Nectar Triantas had to come in and start at the back with Jensen Selt. Both their debuts, their starting debuts. So really, makeshift defence there. Wasn't expecting much, if I'm completely honest. But we took the lead. We took the lead through a set piece as well, which was very, very shocking, considering we are not great from set pieces. A really good header from Nazari Ruzian, who, to be honest, I've been really impressed with. I feel like he's definitely bringing a bit more to our game than Mason Burstow was. Nice little header across for Job to slot it in and make it 1-0. Obviously, Birmingham came back through Koji Miyoshi. Defence, to be honest, a little bit all over. To be expected when, you've got 2 centre-backs making their starting debut, so it was to be expected. But, in the second half, they came out and, they kept it together, played confidently, but we shouldn't have been playing them into trouble, to be quite honest. And then, obviously, we took a 2-1 lead. Effectively, it was an own goal from Dion Sanderson, but to me, I'm counting that as Nectar Triantas' first goal, because he was the one that was celebrating. I'm sure he got the last touch before it hit off Sanderson. And then, we made a couple of substitutions. We introduced Alizada Mayenda, and we introduced Adil Ushish. And Ushish came on and scored within 2 minutes. Nice to see. It's nice to see that we do have that depth in midfield. But all in all, big shout out, man of the match for me, definitely Jack Clark. He just, the influence he has on games is just brilliant. I thought he played really, really well. And it was really interesting to see us score from 2 set players as well, because as a Sunderland fan, that never really ever happens. As far as Birmingham City go, just to kind of give them a little bit of a snapshot review, very poor. They are not clicking under Wayne Rooney. We took advantage of that, and even though we weren't at our best, we firmly came out with a 3-1 win. And I honestly believe if we were at our best and had our best 11 out, I think it could have definitely been 5 or 6 maybe. I just wasn't really very impressed with Birmingham City. I haven't been impressed with them since they let Johnny Eustace score, to be quite honest. But no, another good win for us. Keeps us in the playoff places. And now we have the international break. Patrick Roberts has just signed a new contract to 2026 as well. So it's all good news for us Sunderland fans. Lads, thanks for letting us send across my review on our most recent fixture there against Birmingham City. Cheers.
Social Podcast Network.